All right, hello. We are Team Motion, and our team members are Chris, Anthony, Gerson, Brian, Octavio, and Jose. And we are going to be presenting breakthrough technologies.
And the first significant technology we'll be discussing are the Babel-Fish earbuds. And these earbuds came about from the idea from the movie The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the traveler was had a fish inserted into his ear that allowed him to understand the language of the aliens. And the concept is that it offers real-time translation. Basically, the user inputs sentences using an app, and the app translates it and regurgitates it back to the user. Some important players in the game include the Pixel Buds by Google, the Pilot Buds, and the WT2s. And just basically came from the idea of wanting to break down language barriers and just being able to carry a conversation with a stranger who speaks a different native language from your own. Some applications include easier communications between high-ranking officials and scientists from different nations, such as in the United Nations, where most of the time translators, they take what's given and then feed it back to their representative, making it very time-consuming. Also for foreign travelers to navigate the city, just makes it much easier. Technology for the future, hopefully we can use instant translation without the need for an app. It just makes the overall design sleeker and more concealed. Some also alternatives include instant translation when watching a movie without the need for subtitles, or developing lenses that provide real-time translation when reading a foreign text.
I'll be presenting zero carbon natural gas. And for zero carbon natural gas, one of the main fixes would be our climate. Currently, our climate situation is very bad, and what we're trying to do is reduce the carbon emissions that we are creating, like greenhouse gases such as CO2. And with this new technology, we'll be able to cut back on the greenhouse gases that we do have in the environment by cutting back multiple factories from releasing more CO2 into the air. And one of the main ideas of how to do this would greatly impact the cost and effectiveness of many power plants that we currently have.
So this new method of creating carbon-free energy from fossil fuels, it works by putting the CO2 through heat, and it compresses it, turning it into a working fluid that powers a special turbine. And a large portion of the carbon can be recycled back into the plant, and the rest can be easily and cheaply captured. Net Power believes that they can create energy that is cheap like natural gas energy and practically contain all the carbon dioxide in the process, which would be really beneficial to our environment as we're not polluting the air and creating other catastrophes.
The third breakthrough we'll be talking about is perfect online privacy. Perfect online privacy is something that we've been always wanting. And in today's society, almost everyone possesses an electronic device that has access to the internet. And although the internet is very resourceful and makes life way easier, there's no way of telling how safe your personal information is on the internet. And in an effort to resolve this, computer scientists at many companies are working on a cryptographic tool that will prove something without releasing any information you don't want to be released. on online applications. If you've ever heard of the term Bitcoin or Ether, or short for Ethereum, these are very popular ways to make money online, and all of this is done over the internet. And to these companies, privacy is a huge concern. Additionally, when you shop online, it requires the customer, to include some personal information, your credit card, or whatever it must be, and sometimes you may not want to give that away. And what with this new technology, what is being referred to as a blockchain, this will stop those information that you do not want to be released from being released. These By this, it could also limit the risk of a privacy breach or identity theft. And one way of doing this, the company has come up with, is using this method called ZK SNARK, short for Zero Knowledge Sussing Non-Interactive Argument of Knowledge, which gives the users an ability to make transactions online anonymously without having a worry about being a privacy breach or anything like that. In today's world, and like regular day to day, these blockchains are also very useful, and can be used in banks. And the way banks can use these blockchains is by implementing them in payment systems, so to take away the fear of clients of privacy being stolen. And this overall idea of blockchains is to keep personal information off the internet to avoid this risk of identity theft. And although these blockchains have a positive output, they do have some downsides. To the ZK snarks, they are computation heavy and are very, very slow. And it also requires a key. It only has one key, and this one key can compromise the whole system. So you can imagine just what would happen if that key lands in the wrong hands.
So the next technology we're going to talk about is genetic fortune telling. So today we have more information about the genome than we've ever had in our entire history. So today we can tell a lot about a person just by looking at their DNA. Our DNA databases have grown between 100,000 to 1 million participants. So scientists can now track information and trends in our DNA to see particular cases. So now we can see medical complications on a person, and we can see how it could impact their lives. In the near future, we'll be able to predict what our children are susceptible before they can even walk. For example, we can predict their probability to have a heart attack. On the basis of some DNA testers, we can also tell how tall they're going to grow, even as they're babies. And with this power comes great responsibility. So this is the good that can come of it. With this technology, we can use it to predict things like Alzheimer's, diabetes, breast cancer, and schizophrenia. The benefit of being able to predict these is that we can take preventative actions in order to minimize the negative effects of the diseases. In the case of breast cancer, mammograms can be performed at a higher frequency for people that are more likely to get breast cancer, and they can be performed at a lower frequency if you are not likely to get cancer. For the person that has a high likely to get it, it can help prevent it or take actions to prevent it. And if you're not likely to get it, it can save you cash and visits to the doctor because you're not taking all those unnecessary mammograms. And this is just one example, of the methods that can be used in order to prevent worse outcomes. And this is the bad of it. Large pharmaceutical companies have already sought to take advantage of this technology. They're taking aim at high-risk populations aggressively. So if you're predisposed to a disease like Alzheimer's, they'll try to market products to you ahead of time in order for them to make more money. And it just makes you easier to prey upon if you're already scared about something that might happen to you. Another thing that can arise out of this is something called the genetic score. If you can determine something like height and IQ at birth, it can lead to a situation in which you're assigned a genetic score at birth. So let's say you have a high score because you're going to be tall and you have a high IQ. This can lead to good things, but if, let's say, you have a low IQ through your DNA, it can impede your way into higher education or into a career that you want. So with this genetic fortune telling, we need to tread lightly and be able to implement this properly when it's ready.
The last breakthrough technology we're going to be talking about is materials quantum leap. And materials quantum leap focuses on the idea of quantum computers. And these computers are capable of accomplishing tasks much greater than the regular binary computers today. And a problem that arises when thinking about quantum computers is what we would actually do with the amount of power these computers perform. And some good things that we can do with these powerful quantum computers would be designing molecules. And designing molecules will give us the benefit of creating new novel electrolytes for better batteries, or creating more efficient solar cells so we could turn sun energy into energy we can use much easier. And the reason we can't do this today is because like modeling a molecule is way too complex and difficult for a regular computer. Even the simplest of molecules are too complex. And in quantum computers, this problem can be answered. The main difference between quantum computers and regular computers is that regular computers use binary code, which is ones and zeros, while quantum computers use qubits. And qubits are just a version of it's just a quantum version of a classic binary bit, and it displays the weirdness of quantum mechanics. One example of a quantum computer today is one created by IBM, which only contains 7 qubits, but with just that small amount, it was able to model a small molecule with only 3 atoms. And when can we see quantum computers actually taking their toll is within the next three generations, or roughly the next 25 years. And in order to have good quantum computers to produce the right task, you need the right amount of logical qubits. And roughly a logical qubit is anywhere from 10 to thousands of physical qubits. And the difference between classic computers and quantum computers is the way they solve problems. A classic computer is used through binary code, so it works sequentially, meaning that whenever you give it a very complex problem, it has to guess all the answers and mark them off through trial and error, which can take a very long time. While quantum computers work through qubits, which means they work concurrently, meaning that if it takes a very complex problem, it looks at all the possible answers at the exact same moment, and it disregards the wrong ones at the same time, making it a lot faster to solve a very complex problem. And the resources we used for this presentation was Breakthrough Technologies 2018 from MIT Review and the Coming Quantum Leap in Computing.